Hey everybody, let me turn down my radio. I just heard that the median price for homes in parts of Los Angeles is now $675,000. I will now buy a large drone, put a container underneath it, and just hover.
Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, one half a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. Hell yeah. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second.
Leg out.
Hey everybody, good morning. There we go, that's what I'm waiting for. Who am I and what am I doing here? The old Stockdale's running mates. No, Stockdale was the running mate. Yeah, that's right, Ross Perot, I forgot. I think they've all moved on to another realm. I don't think they're with us anymore, but that was an interesting presidential race between Ross Perot, George H. Bush, I believe, and Clinton, the first Clinton, the first guy. With 500 million people in the United States, we couldn't get one step removed from the families that just ran. But in any case, I think all the presidents do a good job because they're holding the machine together. Sure, we all have different values. Some of them are, kind of go hand in hand with what I believe, and some of them are wrong. So in any event, though, it's still like a company. If the company is still functioning, then somebody's running it right, because anybody can run a company to the ground. It just takes longer for some people. So yeah, home prices are very high, and I always wonder, how do these people pay for it? Sure, there's the people that have the, and by the way, this has nothing to do with what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to have a long show. I like long shows, but I am delegated to only 15 minutes because I lost my wallet and I never reset my credit card, and so on this app that I use, the freebie version of the software only gives me 15 minutes since I'm not paying to update it. So I figure I'm going to be very efficient, and I'm already off on two different tangents. So yeah, home prices are high. Who the hell can afford to live there unless you're grandfathered in by your folks? But even just the maintenance and then the property tax and blah 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 blah. I mean, I don't see how we could keep this up. So I would assume, and yes, you could take this to the bank, I would assume that the prices are going to fall, because at a certain point it has to equate or reflect the income that is being raised in the same community where people can actually live there. And people talk about, oh no, Chinese investors are buying everything, and they're gonna drive the prices up. Well, yeah, sure, they could buy everything, but unless they live in all those homes, somebody's got to occupy them, and the renters will occupy them, and guess what? Renters can't afford more than they make for too long. So you're like, oh, well, there's more houses than people. Oh, no, sorry, fewer houses than people. Well, the invisible hand in economics will take care of that. And if the houses are worth so much more than they should be, they will build and build and build until there's not a profit anymore. So it's just a matter of time. They'll keep on building apartments, and they'll expand areas to where there's no homes now, and eventually it'll come down. So if you don't own a home, just wait, and I'm sure in 7 years you'll be able to afford to get into one. Lucky you. It's beautiful Southern California, but this is where the money's at, and if you want to make money, you got to be here. What is my show about? I do a little bit of everything. Therefore, I'm not good at anything. So I maybe I should be a little less vague. Specifically, I love business. I've read probably every business and marketing book that I can get my greasy little hands on. I started back in the day in the libraries and books on tape, and you go in there, and it's always interesting because a lot of that stuff is donated, and you look at old people's record collections, and I would get records of like motivational speakers, tapes. You just open up a tape, and sometimes they'd all be there if you're lucky. But it was just a kind of a neat thing. You go there and you look at. This was it Brian Tracy back in the day, and John Hopkins? Not John. That's Tom Hopkins, I believe. That is one of the best book on sales you'll ever get. Even though sales are changing because of social media, I believe that is the most groundbreaking book. I still use it today when I go over sales with people in my group. Of course, I'm on a board of a food company, but even whether it's in my cleaning company or with them, people that have been car salesmen forever, it's amazing they haven't heard a lot of these tactics that should be fundamental. So even if you don't own a company, you're a salesperson, you want to increase your sales, but you could do it in life too, with other people, and it's amazing how they overlap. But the other thing I do is I got 4 kids, and of course run different things. I'm far from perfect, but I've learned so much stuff because I've listened to super smart people, and I've seen a lot of practical people, and I've seen a lot of people that just are not good at anything figure it out. And I'm like, wait a minute, okay, if this person's making money and they're stupid, what are they doing? They just eventually they worked all their mistakes out. And then, I took whatever they were doing and try to apply that to my company and life and everything. And of course, like anything else, I do know we weren't here by accident. And I try to take what gifts God leaves around and apply those as well. But you can be an atheist and still benefit from a religious lifestyle, believe it or not. And I'm not saying you have to, be a Bible thumper, but eventually you get to a point where you think, well, maybe what I've done over here hasn't worked too well. What the world has done as far as secularism hasn't worked too well. And where the world is doing well, it's interesting that usually religion is super injected in the veins of that culture. For all its flaws, and ironically, the flaws come from when religion that actually takes God's word and puts their spin on it. That's usually where the flaws come from. But if you take it in its purest form, when you are reading the Bible, it talks about, the Bible is just like, be kind to your slaves. You're like, oh, see, the Bible is saying, slavery is good. No. The Bible is taking slavery, which was, like, we have abortion now. I believe that, eventually we'll look at that as a medieval thing to do. But it was accepted back then, and it was a currency. It just happened. Slavery was like, hey, I'm going to go, grab a day worker or something like that. And it was that common. And the Bible was the first manuscript to say, hey, I got to check my time now. I'm not used to that. The first manuscript to say, hey, treat them well. And you got to remember, back then, some people did want to be indentured servants. Even after their their slavery was up, they'd be like, no, I'm here. I can get 3 hots and a cot. I'm good. Let me nail my ear to the door jamb. That was our custom. That was a really horrible custom of all the customs. It could have been like, hey, let me bake you a cinnamon cake or something, and that will mean I'm your indentured servant. But no, let me nail my ear to your door jamb. That's what they came up with. But so the Bible would take things that were super bad and make them applicable. Like, hey, if you treat your slave, think about it. If you treat your slave well, that means they're fed. And also, the Bible says, do unto others as you would do to them. So it's saying, would you want to be whipped? No. Would you want to work for free? No. Would you? You know what I mean? It's and it said, pay your the people that work for you daily. So it's before you walk all over the Bible, let's see what everybody else was doing at the time. What was a better option? Answer is there wasn't one. This was leap years ahead, and it gave women prominent roles. It allowed women. You talk about women's lib. This is a time where, it's like ISIS. Eat your heart out. Women would just be on the hands and knees and be used as coffee tables if they wanted to. And you could tell men came up with a lot of the rules because women were just getting the short end of the stick. And the Bible said, no, husbands, honor your wives. And in the Bible, they were deacons, and they helped with the church. And remember, the church was government at the time. And so before we dismiss the Bible, let's give it a chance. Talk to somebody who knows the Bible. And I'm not a scholar by any stretch. Well, except for my own imagination. But I do know some of the basics. Thank God, and it's helped me immensely, and it is worth kind of checking it out. Why not? We're gonna waste time watching stupid movies. Give that story, and I will say it's a story, whether you believe it or not. That's up to you, but you may want to give that a chance. And I'm not saying it's a fiction story. It could still be a nonfiction story, but in any event, there's been no Bible that has been no book that has ever been under so much scrutiny, and it passed the test. So let's see, where am I at with my time? I got 2 minutes and 20 seconds, so maybe I could do a long out. In fact, I just spent the 15 minutes doing an intro. But anyway, tell somebody about the show. Only because after I give it a certain amount of time, I want it to grow just enough to keep me going, because I need that. I'm motivated if just a couple people are profiting from the show, and the only way to do that is mention it to somebody. I'm on adailypodcast.com, and of course Spreaker. If you just look up Help Yourself Podcast. And I got a couple other shows, and I've just been so busy with work. We're moving. We actually, with the Nextella, we are actually back ordered, so we're moving into a larger venue and all the things that go with it. And wow, it's just, I thank God for it. I know it's a lot of hard work, but it has, the genesis has to be somewhere. The beginning of all this stuff. And if you listen to a lot of my shows, I kind of tell you what I think to be an effective way to start a business, an effective way to keep yourself motivated, to ultimately be successful. And it is in that order. And just like the Bible, you may read through a chapter, but then you realize, hey, the things you just read, the beginning, the middle, and the end of this chapter, that he just covered hundreds and hundreds of years. And same thing with business. I tell you, hey, we started this company, and now we're moving to a bigger place. We're talking about years here, and that's business, folks. All right, guys, we'll see you later. Thanks for the nice comment I just got. Oh, I gotta go.